Hi, my name is Anna McMillan. I'm the owner and founder of Little Wings Sleep, certified sleep coach, and I am so thrilled that you are here today. I am a mom of three, and so man, oh man, do I understand sleep deprivation. And so I am so glad that you're here. I know that you're an incredible parent or caregiver because you are here listening. And you're not just listening to any podcast about sleep, you're listening to Little Wings Sleep Podcast because we are all about attachment theory, healthy night feeds. We're all about clear communication. Man, I said that weird. Clear communication. Ironically, hey? And we're all about making sure that baby is able to feel safe and confident and comfortable in their sleep space. And this is for babies and toddlers alike. Even after having my own kids, my husband was like, well, now we need to sleep train you, right? Because I had lost all of my ability to sleep. I was constantly on high alert and I didn't know how to fall asleep. I ended up listening to friends on my AirPods every night to get to sleep. And I actually had to initiate some of the tools that I knew about babies for myself because I was not sleeping. Anyway, the premise of today is that we are doing a Q&A. So you are able to email in, you can email in a voice memo, you can email in a question. I have some questions today that we'll be covering that are from legit real life moms or dads who've just emailed in their questions, and I'm going to answer them for you. You are welcome to email in as well, and I will do my best to answer as many as I can. The email to email is questions@littlewinks.ca. And so I will be answering each one individually. So today we have 3 different questions that I have picked out that I really want to kind of work through and flesh out so that this actually would be able to help you and your family as well. Maybe you're going through this. Maybe you have a friend and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm going to share this podcast with them because it is so helpful. And this is exactly what they're going through or about to go through. And you can see that it might end up in this spot. Anyway, love them enough to share it with them. And maybe they want to submit their own question, but we are a place where you're accepted with grace. You are an amazing parent. I know that because you're here. And also, you don't need to change until you're ready to change. The number one thing with all of this is if a parent isn't ready for change, then they're not going to be consistent about it. And then that's going to cause increased crying for the baby. Okay, so our first question comes from Jessica. Hey, my baby is 10 weeks old and I'm attempting to remove the swaddle cold turkey. Okay, cold turkey. I swaddled my first far too long and I don't want to do that again. Yeah, doing it some of the toughest things with baby sleep is a 10-month-old with a swaddle. That is really rough. How long should it take my 10-week-old to get used to sleeping without being swaddled? Thanks. Okay, Jessica, here's the thing is that it depends on how consistent you are and how much practice you're giving baby during the day on their back and their belly as well in that free motion. The thing is that when we are swaddling, we are doing it to calm that startle reflex. That startle reflex goes at about 12 weeks. So you must be doing nurturing newborn sleep. In fact, I know your name, so I know that you're following along on social media and stuff. And so what we know is that it kind of comes in at 12 weeks. And that's when the startle reflex starts to reduce during deep sleep at night, because that's when partial paralysis. So that's where your body is able to go into sleep, but not respond to things as if it's an emergency all the time. And so this is a great time to do it. If your baby is never on their back, they're never figuring out how their body feels, what it feels like to have free range or motion, then it's going to take longer. It's definitely going to take 4 to 6 days to get used to, for sure. However, we shouldn't be seeing them waking up constantly for longer than a couple of days. If you're able to look at it during the day, especially, if you're looking at doing cold turkey, that's okay. But I would almost prioritize nap times and then night times if you have the time before 12 weeks. And that way, then if it disturbs a nap, you've got other naps in the day to kind of bounce back from to avoid overtiredness. Here's the thing is that when they do startle you, instead of having to be oh my gosh, this is so painful and frustrating, because it's frustrating for them too. we have to go, okay, we are one startle closer to this not being an issue, because the way we get through this is for them to become comfortable with the movements of their body. So practice. If you have baby, you can have your hands out, their head in one hand and bum in the other hand, and just kind of like with your arms, like give them a little bit of a bounce so that they get used to that slightly but supported dropping sensation. That's going to be really helpful. Generally for swaddles, I actually would recommend doing a bit of a partial removal. So like focusing on naps and then focusing on one arm, then the other arm. Okay, so we have the next question from Tamara. I have previously done Sleep Sleep Baby for my son. Woo! Okay, so Sleep Sleep Baby is like my flagship course. This is like, if your baby is like 4 months to 2 years, like you need it. Like it's amazing. Even if your baby is a great sleeper, it'll help with naps. We started at 4.5 months and now he is 25 months. Okay, so we're just like at that 2 year, my red flag, maybe 2 year regression. It's not really a regression, but there's generally like a hiccup with sleep. We put him into a full-size bed 2 weeks ago, as I am expecting again. Well, he hasn't missed a beat, and I owe that to you and your program. That's awesome. For Sleep Sleep Baby, it states bedtime feeds should be completed about 20 minutes before bedtime. I am currently pregnant and due in a few weeks, and I'm doing Nurturing Newborns. For newborns, should bedtime feeds be done a certain amount of minutes before bedtime so not to form a feed to sleep association? For a bedtime routine, it says to do warm bath, wipe down before feeding, but with Sleep Sleep Baby, it says to do the feed before bath. I'm not sure where to put that feed for my newborn. Thank you, Tammy. Awesome question, Tammy. So there is a reason why they're different. When you're pre-4 month regression, especially with a newborn, it is really hard to keep them awake feeding, and we actually want to maximize calories. And so we need to kind of like get a top up feed in there. So yes, you do want to keep them awake as much as possible. But when it comes to nurturing newborns, I really want to prioritize that feeding relationship. And then once that has kind of like built in really steadily, then we're able to kind of like add in more time. Because if we're not feeding, like if they're hungry, they're not going to sleep. Whereas after the 4 month regression, we really have to separate feeding. And I find if we have a feed after the bath, when they're all warm and cozy, they're in their bedroom, they just get so sleepy. And so then they get into that light level of sleep and they start to think that they're asleep. And so then you put them down in their crib and they start to scream because they're already asleep feeding in your arms. And so they get really, really annoyed. Whereas with a newborn, they're much more flexible, especially in that first 4 weeks. And being able to feed them. So I try not to put too much emphasis, especially on their first 2 weeks, as to when feedings are, because you guys are gonna be really just working out feeding, right? And so the key here is to do a top up feed. Also, newborns will be clustering like crazy in that like first 8 weeks. And so getting more calories in is really useful. If you can at all, like put that top up feed 10 to 20 minutes before and baby's doing okay and you're feeling confident that they had enough food, that is amazing. It is an extra step forward in the right direction. That would be awesome. However, is it essential? No, Nurturing Newborn Sleep will lead you through that step by step. So, but that's a really, really good, insightful question. So just for those of you who don't know, Nurturing Newborns, we actually like lead everyone through week by week of what to do with sleep. So you're kind of like building these stepping stone foundations. So rather than feeling like you're panicking about sleep all the time, you've got the tools there, you've got the guidance, you know what's happening. And then you're able to go through his bit by bit by bit by bit. And so my best friend is doing Nurturing Newborn Sleep. And her baby is 10 weeks and last night slept through the night for the first time, which is great, even though she's had like weight gain struggles and she's been, they've been trying to figuring out nursing, but they've put those foundations in place bit by bit by bit by bit. And so it's really cool because then baby is able to drop those night feeds when they're ready. Okay, so we have Stephanie. Hey, Anna and team, longtime follower and second time program mama here. I love this. Today we got lots of people who we like already know. We absolutely love your program and recommend it to all new parents. It's my trusted baby advice, lol. Oh, that means so much to me. Like legitimately that you would trust me with your family, but also your friend's family. That's awesome. My question for the podcast, how to tackle bedtime routine with a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. Backstory, when my husband is home, we tackle bedtime as a team, switching off who does which job with each kiddo to ensure everyone is comfortable with the routines and both parents. Unfortunately, I can't always rely on my husband being home in his line of work. He soon has a work trip coming up. Yep. With my second, my husband was working mostly evenings, so I get this feeling, which leaves me solo for 3 weeks. My anxiety is stressing out about how to keep the bedtime routine on schedule and on track running solo. My 3-year-old is pretty independent and helpful, more worried about the 3-month-old having to go to bed in the middle of the routine, going off of wake windows while my toddler is in the bath. We're at the stage with our 3-month-old where she puts herself to sleep independently, and I feel like that's a huge win. It is a huge win, Stephanie. It is a massive, massive win. Looking for some advice, tips, or tricks. She loves the podcast idea with write-in questions. Awesome. So they have, and that's from Stephanie, Matthew, Clara, and Madeline. Clara was one of my baby names I really wanted. Anyway, okay, so I totally remember this. You're juggling all of the kids. I still feel like that sometimes. My kids are like 7, 4, and 2, and sometimes I'm like, oh my goodness, you're all everywhere when I'm doing bedtime alone. The thing with a 3-month-old is that their schedule is flexible, very, very flexible. So if you can see that kind of coming at you with a nap routine, like I would let them nap like an extra 15 to 20 minutes, so they're having a bedtime after your toddler. Or alternatively, depending on what bedtime your baby is at, like if they're at an 8:30 bedtime, like are we able to kind of like have them napping during bedtime if toddler's bedtime is 6:30, but that's unlikely. I've just dealt with that recently. That's why with a family. Here's what I would do is I would really include baby and toddler in it. Like at 3 months, there's a bit of flexibility, and at 3 years, like 3 years, they can kind of go 30 minutes either side of their bedtime. And we couldn't do it consistently, but they would be okay. And here's what I would do for the sake of your toddler. I would prioritize getting baby to bed over your toddler. Your toddler is going to feel so special. You're going to feel way less stressed, not feeling like it's a ticking time bomb to get your 3-month-old to bed, that I would prioritize getting baby to bed, even if it means she's having like a 6:30 bedtime or a 6:45 bedtime, and then your toddler is like napping a little bit more and is doing like a 7:30. You're going to feel way more like a champ of a mom if you're able to end the day on quality time, not rushed. Like you're in the bath, you got to go down. The fact that your 3-month-old goes down independently just makes this whole scenario so much easier. Any other parents? Y'all need to get sleep baby and nurturing newborns. That's what Stephanie said. But yeah, so what I would do is I would prioritize baby going down. So when you're doing like either before or after bath time, and I would just shuffle bath time, and I would kind of like allow your 3-year-old to be a bit more flexible in their timing and get them to help. The biggest thing is like giving them a task. So whether it's like, okay, you're going to do the cream, or I need you to pick the pajamas out tonight, or you're going to set them up with some books. It's okay to have your older kids a part of the bedtime routine of your baby. It's okay if they want to be there for their books. It's okay if they want to be there to sing songs and tuck them in. They've got a sleep sack on, but or turn off the light. I would prioritize that. Then do your toddler's bath time routine. You're going to have a much more regulated toddler during the day, and that is going to like just make life so much simpler. I've got some photos of like my little ones, like, and it's just the sweetest thing of me doing bedtime like routine by myself. And it's like little baby's just like laying in bed, like watching and kind of letting things happen around her. Like it's okay that timing isn't perfect, but if we're prioritizing anyone's timing, it's going to be the baby. That is my biggest tip, is to kind of like, when we're looking at whose sleep time gets prioritized, we're always looking at the most flexible, the most resilient one out of the pair. And the other thing is like, put the baby in the carrier if you need to, but it sounds like you've got things on point. And also, you know what? If you're stressing out and your kid doesn't get a bath, it's okay. It's a-okay. Do the bath time when you're like during the afternoon or something like that. It doesn't need to be exactly the same every time, nor do you need to have a bath every single day. So while you're on your own, simplify, simplify, simplify. Give yourself a break. It's okay that there's no bath. It's okay that, you know, like that your toddler's having a later bedtime. It's okay that your baby's going down 15 minutes earlier. All of that is okay. Let's like green brain, like, so when we're working through like our brain, where we are in our stress states, green brain is our neocortex at the front, our best functioning self. When we're in green brain, we lead the way. And so if it means you're more regulated and they don't get a bath and they get a mid-morning bath tomorrow, or maybe they just don't get a bath that day, it's okay. Whatever. Order some pizza. You'll be good. Also, I will say, as a mom, one of the best things that I actually do when I have kids of my own is actually dinner after they're in bed. I have a snack with them while they eat dinner to like kind of help with that food hygiene. But I find that I need to have like set a task for myself to unwind once they're in bed, so that I feel like I'm not completely tapped out, that I feel like I have that zeroed in time, but also so I can consciously eat, because otherwise I just inhale food if I eat with the kids. So kind of like think through where are those self-care times for you as well. And yeah, give yourself a lot of grace. It's going to be okay. And your job is to keep everyone alive, right? Everyone loved, everyone safe, everyone's as regulated as possible. And sometimes moments there won't be regulation, and it's okay. Also, it's okay to cut the nap short in the afternoon so you can like adjust bedtime so it fits in a smoother way. Anyway, guys, I hope that has been helpful. Those were my like 3 top common questions this week. And make sure that you are sending in more questions, because this is absolutely my favorite, is answering all of your legit questions, because then you get true, authentic advice rather than like the broad scope stuff that you might just read online. Anyway, have a great week. Send in those questions. Remember, I got your back if you need help with sleep. And also that there's loads of free resources on the website, so grab them. Bye.